Nothing better than some good old-fashioned rock crabs. How's everyone doing though? Hopefully you guys are having a wonderful day. Today we're going to be getting on into what I think prices for these Raids 2 items are going to be in the future. Personally, I've been doing a lot of Raids 2 in the past couple weeks. I've recently gotten up to what is 50 KC, so we're out here grinding. If any of you guys do a decent bit of theater, or ever looking for anyone, hit me up. Always looking for a team. Theater's kind of hard to find people, so that's my plea to the people. For this video though, I'll be going over my experiences through Raids 2, where I think Raids 2 is going to go in the future because of how it plays and really what the game mode is by itself. And ultimately, we'll come to the conclusion as far as what I think prices for these new items are going to be in what is 6 months. However, I think 6 months gives it a decent bit of time for most of these items to stabilize, and there's not a lot of them in the game at the moment, and even the ones that are in are just being like bought by people with a big bank, so of course they're going to hold high values. But yeah, let's go ahead and get right on into it. So before we get into it, real quick, I'd like to give a shout out to Oblivion PVM. They're a PVMing clan, and there will be a link to their Twitter in this post in the description below if you want to check it out. But they made the first real log of Raids 2 items, and the drop rates and the information that I was able to gather from here kind of allows me to be able to make more accurate representations of what I think these item prices are going to be in the future. So, huge shout out to them, and if you guys want to check them out, do so in the link below. With that said though, they had a lot of useful calculations. However, the one thing that I'd like to throw up on screen is the actual drop rate of all of these items, so you can actually kind of think what the rarity of these are. What's notable here is that the Defender is pretty much the most common drop. It's like a prayer scroll from Raids 1. You're going to get a lot. There's going to be a lot of them used in the game too because there's so many people that do melee. The next tier it seems is Jessyca, but it seems to also be almost on the same tier as a Rapier. Those four items lie within the 300 to 500 range. And then after that we have the Staff at 507 and the Scythe at 1 and about 900. Keep in mind that these are the free-for-all raids. This is assuming you're doing a 4-man, so if you're actually going to be splitting with your clan, then the rates of these are lessened. For the case of the Avernic Defender, it'd actually be closer to 1 and 25 rather than 1 in 99. So these are the current prices for all of the items at the moment. If you want to take a look at any of them in particular, feel free to do so. However, now I'll talk about a couple of the graphs and where I think it's kind of interesting. The Jessyca, we can look at the legs here, however it holds same for the most part with all of them. They started out relatively high and now they're about half the price they were a month ago. How far will they go down? Now, personally, I do think that they have some use in the game. However, there just seems to be such a supply that they will continue to go down here in the coming future. The Rapier has dipped a lot. However, it's been going up lately. This will be an item that I think will continue to have big dips in the coming future as well. Next, the Staff has actually held its own pretty well. There are a lot of ebbs and flows to finding the meta with this staff, so you will see a lot of price jumps. And then lastly, the Avernic Defender has had what was a little dip recently. However, in the coming future, I'd continue to see it go down. So let's go ahead and get on into my projected prices for these items in 6 months. We'll start in the top left with the Rapier. I see this going down a decent bit because really it isn't that overpowered. Obviously it's better than the Whip and it's best in slot for most things that the Scythe isn't. It isn't necessarily going to change your XP rates too much, so I don't see people going all out for it. However, it is best in slot and people are going to be willing to pay for that. If something like the Arcane can hold 130, 140 mil value, I don't see why people wouldn't pay upwards of 250 mil for the best in slot melee weapon. The Avernic Defender I do think would be somewhere around Dex, what a Dex scroll is worth, because it's just really useful and a lot of people are drawn into melee type items. Along with that, you have Fashionscape draw with it, so I do think a lot of people are going to be willing to put up a decent bit of money for that. Moving on to the Staff at 180 mil, I do think it'll hold a decent price because it really is useful. The Kodai is good for barraging, and a lot of people do that. However, the Staff can absolutely change what kind of bosses you're able to do and how efficient you can do them, so it is going to be meta for some things, and I think it'll hold a decent value. 300 mil on a Staff, I don't think a lot of people are going to be willing to sit on that in the future, so it should drop a decent bit. The Jessyca Armor is one that I just see slowly degrading over time. However, it is really good defensively, and I don't think that it's going to go that low. It may seem strange that the helm is more valued than the legs, but that's because the helm actually has uses when not using the full set. The legs really aren't all that applicable. And the armor set really could be one that goes up in the future. I could easily see it being useful at a new boss, but to be honest, I don't think we're going to get anything that's that high-end PVM content for a while, so I don't really see it doing all too much now. Finally, the Scythe at 2.6 bill. It may seem like a strange sort of estimate, and how did I get there, you may wonder. And that's where I'd like to talk about what I thought a little bit more of this video. So for some of the lower valued items, I figured that it would be best to think what I actually thought their price would be. However, for something like the staff, it's so arbitrary that I can't decipher the difference between what people are willing to pay at 3.6 bill, 2.6 bill, 1.6 bill. It is just really hard for me to be able to tell. So what I did was I went off of what I think the GP per hour will be in the future. Currently at Raids 2, you can make about 15 to 16 mil GP per hour, and I've heard so many people say that the only reason that they're here is because it's so good of GP per hour right now that it's just worth it for them to do it. So I think people are going to run that into the ground as much as they can, to the point to where it's kind of alright to do. However, you may not necessarily go there all the time because it isn't all that worth it. So naturally, I think that this is just going to get less GP per hour over time. 16 mil an hour is so high compared to what most people can do. And in the future, there will be a lot more raids completed because people will be better at doing them, and more of the metas will just be understood by the average player. Ultimately, I was thinking that this would average somewhere around 11 mil GP per hour, considering Zora is close to 4 to 5 mil GP an hour. And it doesn't take a whole lot of skill, and definitely not as much consumption of your bank, considering when you do raids, you're going to need like a T-bow and stuff like that. Along with that, you need a higher GP per hour at Raids 2 because of the variation. So I think 11 mil is a very good number to set on. With that considered, I knew the GP per hour of every other item, so then I just had to be able to determine what the GP per hour of the Scythe was, and ultimately working backwards, that's how I got the 2.6 bill for the Scythe. Alright, so that is going to be it for me today. As far as the prices, they all obviously are going to go down in the future, so you really can't get any good investment advice as far as this goes. However, you can get a good understanding to what you're going to lose if you do buy these items now. If you did enjoy the video, make sure to leave a like. If there's any opinion that you have as far as this goes and you want to discuss so, feel free to down below. And ultimately, if you enjoy the content, make sure to subscribe. But with that said, hopefully you guys have a wonderful day, and peace.